Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Jason, this Pastor Dave, and Caleb runs the camera. And I got questions, and Dave's got answers. Hey, Dave, I had a guy come up to me at work this week, and he is a believer, and he's new in his walk, and he's doing well, but he told me that he has a particular sin in his life that he is really struggling to overcome it. It seems to be beating him on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And the question to me was, how do I overcome this thing?
Yeah.
And I gave him a deer in the headlight look and said, I'm going to ask Pastor Dave, and then we'll watch the video together.
Great.
So I'm depending on you on this one.
Oh, dear. Well, the subject of the Spirit of God and His enabling is, He is the strength in our life as He enables us. And an interesting thing about the Spirit of God and how He enables us is he gives us a discernment about things around us and a wisdom about the world we're living in. And then it comes back, kind of like a ping pong game, comes back to whether we want to listen to that or not. Yeah. I find in the book of Galatians a simple principle that has been true in my life, and I found it to be true as far as the struggles in a particular area of life and why I can't seem to shake it or get around it, and it seems like I have no strength. And why is it I believe in God, and why doesn't the Spirit of God take this from me, and why is it I keep repeating the same thing going over and over in my life? He says, do not be deceived in Galatians chapter 6. God's not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that will he also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption. But he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. The idea of reaping and sowing, the idea of planting and harvest, is a big part of the Christian walk that the Spirit of God talks to us about an awful lot. You'll be sitting there in your room and nobody's in the house, and you have a TV show come on, and you just got this thought that just came to your mind, and usually that's the way the Spirit kind of communicates is through your thought processes, and it's like, are you going to watch this, really? And it's like you realize it's going to cause your mind to drift into areas that have nothing to do with the Lord, and you're going to find struggle. Mm-hmm. See, what you do when you disobey that thought, that impulse, that discernment, and you begin to sow that into your heart, what we don't understand is that don't be deceived. God's not mocked. Galatians chapter 6. You will reap in due season. The problem is we think, well, because I watched that movie, I go to bed and then nothing happened. Lightning bolts didn't come. God didn't judge me. I wasn't, in the sense of what I was thinking judgment. But down the road, all of a sudden you're faced with a temptation and you find yourself in that place where you have choices to make, and it's almost like you have no strength in yourself to make that choice. It's like you're like a magnet. It's pulling you to it. Well, the problem wasn't at that point. Sin isn't at that point. Sin is you've been developing this thing for a while. It's back here where you've been sowing that stuff into your life, and now you're reaping. You reap in due season, and that season always comes. And so whatever you're planting in your heart, if you're planting lustful things in your heart and you're allowing that to go on, like off the internet or off TV or films that you have or magazines you might have in your home in the area of pornography and things, or if you're sowing things in your heart like putting yourself in circumstances with people that always brings you to that place where you consume that thing or whatever it is that you're struggling with, if you keep sowing that, you're going to keep reaping it. The only way that you can change the crops is by sowing righteousness, as the Galatians goes on to talk about. You've got to begin to get yourself in a place where you say no to these things, no to the things that keep coming up in the world that have drawn you away. And you begin to get your eyes back on the things that are right with God, and think on things, as he talks about, that are holy and just and pure. Think on things above and not on things below. And it begins to redo that mind. You're renewing your mind back into a place where God's desiring now, where he could speak into your life. But if you keep sowing the filth of this world in your heart, you may feel like you're getting by with it, but he says you will reap in due season. It's just coming. And so the story of reaping and sowing has a lot to do with the struggle of the flesh.
So the hope would be is that we could separate ourselves from these things that are not of God. I've personally told people that you will become who you surround yourself with. And if you can surround yourself with quality things, godly things, that in itself will become who you are. It will become who you become. So you reap what you sow. It's a relatively easy thing to hear, but a very difficult thing to understand. The hope would be is that we could separate ourselves from the things that are not of God. Hey, we appreciate you being here and joining us. If you got any comments, please leave them, and in your comments below, say hi to Caleb. Thanks a lot.